Welcome everybody to today's official program launch of the Masters in Comparative Education and International Development at the Moray House School of Education and Sport. I'm really excited to have you here for this celebration. It really brings together efforts across the school, across the program of individuals over the past 2 years to establish an independent CEID program that will start with its first cohort this fall. So we're excited to have a lot of people here today. This is a CEID Community at Moray House event. So if you are interested in learning more about the broader community or tweeting about this event itself, please connect with us on Twitter at Moray House CEID. So today is really a celebration. I'm excited to have people here from the school and from the broader field join us. We have alumni, we have forthcoming students, people from throughout the CEID community join us for what I hope is really an insightful and uplifting time. Our agenda today, we'll start in a second with a welcome by the Moray House Head of School, Richard Andrews. So thank you, Richard, for joining us. I'll then come back in for a brief program introduction. This won't be my typical sales pitch to the program. It'll be a very brief pit on the program, including how we got here and really recognizing the efforts that went into making the program that's coming out in the fall. Well, we're delighted to have a keynote today by Kenneth King. His keynote will be followed by a CEID faculty panel, which will be moderated by past Student Society Officers and current Student Society Officers. And then we'll have an update on our in-person celebration. So this is only one of two parts of the launch happening today. If you're in Edinburgh and able to join us, we'd love to have you join us at 3 o'clock for the in-person celebration, and we'll have an update at the end. So with that, I'm delighted to welcome today Professor Richard Andrews. Professor Andrews joined Moray House as the head of school in October 2019. Since arriving, his continuous support for CEID has both encouraged us and helped propel this project forward. Prior to arriving at Moray House, he held professorships at the universities of Hull, York, UCL Institute of Education, and the University of East Anglia. Professor Andrews is also a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts and an elected fellow of the Academy of Social Sciences. So thanks, Richard, for joining today. It's great to have you here.
Well, thank you very much indeed. I'm so glad you put a picture of me in my younger years up there, just so I hope everyone's not too disappointed at my aging years. Well, thank you so much. And it's a great honor for me to be able to introduce today. First of all, welcome, as Will has done, not only to colleagues, but also to a wider community. And it's a great moment because having a new master's program of this kind is highly significant. We're building our postgraduate taught profile and portfolio. We're one of the strongest schools in the university in that regard in terms of our postgraduate students, and one of the most international. And what I really like about this new program is that it will create a new community of scholars, a new intellectual community in the school and in the university. Not only that, it's research-based and research-linked, and many of the academics in Will's team that have put this together are building on their own research. And I'm completely confident that any students coming on this program will get lecturers who are absolutely at the cutting edge of their thinking and their work in the field, which makes it all the more exciting for them as students. Some breaking news, Will, and I shouldn't really be doing this, but the embargo is to tomorrow, April the 6th, but maybe just I'll cast it in rather general terms. In the QS World Rankings, which is one of the two very authoritative world university and subject rankings, education has moved in 2022 up well into the top 20. And that's terrific news for us as a school. We're part of a college, Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, which has also moved up into the top 10 in the world. So I thought I'd break that news now. There's more detail coming out later this week, but a nice movement for the launch of this new program, along with that particular moment in the history of the school, which is terrific. I think that any new program of this kind, and one that's so carefully thought out, is going to be absolutely transformational for the students who come to it. And I am sure they will come from across the world, as well as from Scotland and the UK. And that transformation is such a big commitment for them to find the funding, get on a plane, move to a different country, and engage for a year intensively in a program like this is going to transform their careers, their lives, their whole perspective. And this, I think, is particularly why it's such an exciting moment. How did it happen? Well, we have a sort of policy, I suppose, very broad policy in the school, that if a particular pathway on a program, and this has been a very strong pathway on the MSc education for a number of years, if a pathway builds up a sort of clarity and strength and recruitment that really justifies the launch of a new program, this seems an ideal way to do it. It's good for the host program, the MSc education, as it gets bigger and bigger. We want to kind of manage its size so that it doesn't get too unwieldy. But when a new program grows out of a program like the MSc education, it's a great moment. And I know, and Will may tell us more later, there have been a considerable number of applications for entry in the autumn coming up in 2022 for the MSc Comparative Education International Development. That's really encouraging, and we look forward to seeing those students. It's good for the overall economy of our postgraduate offer too. Currently we have 4 very big programs in the school. We have others that are of medium and, if you like, more manageable size. That's in the region of 20 to 30 students. And I'm sure that this program will reach that sort of steady state in due course. I particularly want to thank and give credit to Will and colleagues for the leadership involved in imagining this program and in taking all the logistical moves one has to go through in order to get it through university approval process over the last 2 years, to have the stamina and energy to do that, because to come to a moment like this, really begins to show how valuable all that effort is and how inspirational it's been. I'll just say, if I may, a very few words about comparative education and international development. Comparative education just really does suit our school. We're an outward-looking school. We have an international presence, as you heard on those QS rankings. We wish to internationalize the curriculum. But comparative education, for me, has always seemed such a wise and kind of illuminating pathway to go down, not least because through comparison, criticality is enhanced. It almost goes with the territory. When you compare one education system or one set of experiences and practices to another, you begin to open up the similarities and differences, and criticality thrives in that kind of context. And given that even within the UK, we have some very different educational systems and jurisdictions, I think there's scope, both for local and national comparability, as well as wider comparability within Europe and the rest of the world. It's such an important thing, as we all know, working in schools of education and sport and other such schools, that education is absolutely key to addressing issues around the world of all kinds. And that's where I think the international development side of this is also so important. We know we've moved in the discourse of international development into different phases over the last few years, talking about the global south, the global north, increasingly not talking about developing countries, but talking about a sort of world dynamic in terms of economies and educational opportunities that we want to try and address. And some very important issues like girls' education worldwide, decolonization of the curriculum, all of these come under issues of international development. I also think, going back to the research point, that we've had some terrific recent successes. First with Grant Jarvie in a new framework agreement with the British Council for Sports Development worldwide, and even in the last week or two for Jeremy Cox and Michael Gallagher on sub-Saharan African development in terms of online MSc development. So working with those kind of successes, this program is going to be part of a very, very rich context, and I'm sure will be intellectually demanding and very exciting for its students. So to finish, I just want to say it's such a pleasure to have a moment like this. This is a great moment for the school. It's terrific for the university. It's going to enhance our reputation. It's going to focus our intellectual energies, and we really look forward to meeting the students who will create that community. Of course, many of them will want to go on to doctorates. Many of them may do doctorates elsewhere. I mean, our job, I think, is to provide them with a program that is really going to enhance and advance their understanding and really take them forward in their careers and in their personal lives. So finally, Will, colleagues, everyone involved in this, and that includes our professional services staff who support our academics. Many congratulations. I'm sure this is going to be a great success, and I look forward to welcoming the students and to seeing the progress of this terrific program over the coming years. Will, back to you. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Richard. I really appreciate all the valuable support you and the head of school office has been giving the CEID community in this program. I don't think it's a surprise that really the development of this program aligns almost perfectly with your time as the head of school. So the energy for really internationalizing the school, I think, is captured in this program. So thank you for joining today and all your support. Okay. I want to spend a little bit of time now just doing a very brief introduction to the program. This is not my typical sales pitch, but I think it's important as we celebrate the program to have a little sense of what it is. So as Richard talked about, this used to be a pathway and it's evolving into an independent MSc CEID program. This is a 1-year full-time or 2-year part-time MSc program. And it's unique in that it does combine those two areas Richard was just talking about, comparative education and education international development. That unique combination is what has drawn me, and I'm sure many of our students and other faculty, to this university. It's a unique combination that isn't found in a lot of other master's programs. The new program has compulsory introductory courses and research methods, which we'll share in a bit. But it also provides students a lot of flexibility and freedom for really helping to follow their own passions in this by choosing half of their courses from a range of over 15 options, which we'll share in a second. Some of these are within the School of Education, and some of these are beyond the School of Education. And then, like most of our MSc programs, this culminates in a dissertation, which is your independent research project, but we have a slightly different option with our dissertation, which we'll be hearing more from in our faculty panel. So what's the aim of this program? What do we want our students to come away with it? It's always important in designing a program to think about what you want the outcome to be. And sitting down with the rest of the core faculty and thinking about what we want our students to come away from this program with, we came up with the following aim, which is to develop students as critical and reflexive researchers and practitioners, equipped with the mindset, skills, and confidence to engage with some of the largest challenges in education and international development. Very briefly, if you are part of this program, what are you taking? So courses in the program, which you'll hear some of our brand new introductory courses in the faculty panel. We'll have a new course on Introduction to Comparative Education and a new course on Introduction to Education and International Development. All of our students will also take our core method series on sources of knowledge and conceptualizing research, and then be required to complete a dissertation. But what is really great for this is the range of option courses available, which I think is quite diverse. You can come and focus on issues of social justice or education and conflict or inequality. We have courses on governance, on broader development. We have strong research expertise in anthropology with a long, excellent existing course on anthropology of education and learning. And we have courses coming out from inclusive education on comparative approaches for inclusive and special education or education for all, from the social justice program on policy analysis for social justice, and from the MSc International Development in the School of Social and Political Science on looking at institutions and practices in development. So a huge range of option courses where students can really mold their program to meet their passions. Before I get here, just a little update. So Richard mentioned application numbers are going well for this, so are looking at the latest application numbers. So this program will start with its first cohort, and we're excited to meet them and greet them in fall of this year. So far, application numbers are looking quite healthy. We've got just over 200 applications for this program from about 40 different countries. So we continue to have a good, strong global presence for this program. And we're expecting a cohort size of our initial fall cohort of about 30 when everything's done. Okay, so how did we get here? Part of celebrating this launch today is really recognizing that we didn't get here on our own and thanking all of those that contributed to the thought process along the way, some with really direct planning and some with more informal insights. But the quick answer to how do we get here is just with a lot of help, So we're going to thank some people here today. I'm sure I'm going to forget some people, and I apologize, but if you contributed, we really appreciate all the thought and efforts and energy went into supporting the development of this program. So as Richard mentioned, this is part of Moray House's strategic aims. With an increased international focus and a concentration on sustainability, it fits nicely into the direction Moray House is going. This also, as also mentioned, draws from a very popular CEID pathway in the MSc Education program. We've obviously got strong support from the head of school in Richard's office, and from the head of institute, and I know Sang-Suk is here as the current head of institute, so I really appreciate the continued effort and support from the head of institute as well. And this is part of a 2-year process of really gathering insight and information. So this didn't happen overnight. This was a long, bureaucratic at times, but intellectually stimulating and challenging process as well. So I want to very quickly just thank some people. At Moray House, it all really starts with the core faculty who you meet in our faculty panel later. So these are the individuals that we're meeting collectively to design, think through the structure and the process and the new courses, all really important. I want to also thank the head of institute when we were starting this process. That was Pete Evans, who really helped me navigate the early parts of program application. And more recently with the head of school, Sang-Suk, and Colum, who's also joined us today as a deputy head of school, with their support. Sang-Suk for about a year met with me every month to try to make sure that we were being well supported. So some excellent support from the head of institute team, really appreciate that. I know we have some from the MSc Education team here today, including the program director for MSc Education, Jing Yi, who's been really instrumental in trying to figure out how to disentangle a pathway into a separate program, which isn't an easy process. So Jing Yi and the other pathway coordinators, Adriana, Labaki, James, Josie, and Lynn, met with us as well to try to figure out how to make and evolve this into something different and unique. It's important to recognize the teaching and learning leadership at Moray House in that committee, which gave us feedback and helped us strengthen the program as it went forward. That was led by Davis Banda. We've met with the Director of Internationalization, an international program. So trying to align what we're doing with the movement of the school. So thank you to Kenneth Fordyce and the Communications and Marketing team. So Anna Henley is on leave right now, but for basically all of 2021, Anna and I are meeting every month to try to figure out how to communicate out this program with some support from Debbie, and more recently ICO's rejoined and Janet stepped in, and we continue to have excellent support from the Communications and Marketing team. So, we also reached out and tried to get some insight from other programs. How can we learn from the best practices that are already existing, right? You're always building off of best practices that are out there. Very rarely do you come up with something entirely new. It's just a new configuration for the program. So within the University of Edinburgh, I want to thank Anne Kristen from MSc International Development for letting me pick her brain on some things. Andy Reynolds from MSc Social Justice and Community Action Program. Nicola DeRozzi from the MSc Comparative Public Policy Program. Pippa Chapman, who is the program director for the BSc Sport and Recreation Management, who had a really important meeting with me just before we went to the college review board, as she was helping what is a fairly new BSc program through. She was able to give great insights to help us prepare for that review board. We also learned from some outside of the university. So thinking not about everybody as competitors, but how can we work together in this kind of shared field in the UK? So that included a good conversation with Ricardo Sabates at the University of Cambridge, who leads their MPhil in Education, Globalization, and International Development, and Bernard Reisberg, who leads the MSc in International Relations at the University of Glasgow. Some final things, communication and marketing. One of the big goals of this program is really to have a global presence. And to do that, we needed a very strategic recruitment and marketing plan. So lots of insight from individuals on how we can have this expanded global presence that starts with this new idea of creating placement-based dissertations within the program. And to get a feel for that, placement-based dissertations is not something brand new to the school, but it is fairly new to Moray House. And so we spent about a year talking to Sharon Boateng, who used to run that for the School of Social and Political Science, more recently Rachel Parks, just helping us understand what this is, how does it work, how could it work at Moray House. We've also had good support from the Student Recruitment and Admissions Office. Our admissions strategy is slightly different than what they're familiar with, so appreciate the flexibility of Jane, Mede, and Corin in that. We've met with the development and alumni team to think more broadly about recruitment, so thanks Roy and Rachel for conversations there. And then strategic conversations with Edinburgh Global and target regions to try to do more to reach students there. That included Nick Rowland in Africa, multiple people in the Emeritus office, most notably Scott Bennett, Faraz Ibrahim from the Middle East office, and Harish Lukum from the Central and South Asia office. And finally, key input coming from students and alumni. One of the great benefits in this program design is we already had alumni. We already have students going through this. So we are able to pick their brain on what would they like to see in a separate program. What are some of the things that they would like to see expanded on or not see in the new program? How can we improve to make this a really great experience? So we had 2.5 years of conversations with students, like the pictures you see there, where we were gathering student impact. We had annual student surveys in August in 2020 and 2021 to gather impact. We had a consultation a little farther along when we had this program to really make sure this is going to meet the needs of students. So here you see a little bit of the feedback provided, but really these have all directly led to structures in this new program that have been responsive to student really desires and needs and what they believed would be in a very powerful MSc CEID program. So thanks so much for the student and alumni for joining. The second thing I want to do here is just very briefly situate this program into the CEID community. So over the past years, You've heard me talk about the community, the broad CEID community. And it's important to see how these are interconnected, because this is really one of the big selling points for this new program. As Richard talked about before, there's a strong research base already there, but there's also a lot of student participation and advocacy. So the MSc CEID program is just one of 3 parts of the CEID community. And I'm really excited to have all representatives from all 3 of these parts here today to celebrate this with us. So in the MSc CEID program, we have individuals today that are going to be part of that first cohort. So if you're a part of the first cohort, could you give me a thumbs up or a clap just to see who's here today? I know we've got a few. There we go. Welcome. I'm really excited to have you all join us in the fall. We also are thankful to have some alumni here today from the last 2 years. So if you're an alumni, let us know you're in the house today. So excellent. Great to have some alumni. We have some current students today. So if you're a current student, can you give us a little clap? Perfect. So we have generations of cohorts coming through here, and this is what helps build this strong community. But it's not just master's students here. We also have a separate, independent, student-run society, and this is really where student voice comes through. So we're lucky to have society presidents, past and present here today, and lots of society members. So if you're a society member at any time, let us know. That's just great. Love to see all the students here still connecting with the society and the community. And finally, to make sure that everybody interested in this field has a home at the university, we have a research group that is doing research in CEID. This is over 50 PhDs and faculty members from across the university that is working together right now to get ready for a conference in September, but to support each other throughout the year. So if you're part of the research group, you give us a clap. Let's see who's the research group members are here. Okay, excellent. And this is what we've been trying to build here. If you're a part of this program, you're going to be connected to this broad community. You're going to benefit from the interactions across the community. And it's something that I hope everybody that's a part of the community feels a little bit at home here. Okay, final piece for me is I think it's important to recognize the foundational work in this field at the university. While this is a new program, it's not possible without the efforts of faculty and alumni, past and present. So we've reached out to some distinguished guests, and I just want to recognize that while we have an excellent group of faculty members currently, we're really building off the works of others that have come before us. So here you see a list of some of them. Some of the distinguished guests have joined us today. I just wanted to highlight them briefly. So I think today we have Ruth Naylor joining us. So Dr. Naylor completed her PhD in education from the University of Edinburgh in 2007. She's held a variety of positions, including at Save the Children, the UK Statistics Authority, and at Plan UK. And over the past 10 years, she's been a key senior member of the team at the Education Development Trust. So thank you, Ruth, for joining us today. On the call, we also have Gary Don. So Dr. Don is a former faculty member at Moray House. After completing her PhD at the University of Strathclyde in the history and policy of nuclear energy, her interest changed to education policy. And in 1989, she started at the University of Edinburgh and led the MSc Education program, retiring in 2015. She established UN House Scotland, where she still acts as the executive director. Also joining us today is Alison Goodwood. So Dr. Goodwood completed her MSc in African Studies, specializing in education at the University of Edinburgh in 1991, before completing her PhD at the University of Bath. In addition to nearly 10 years working at the University of Edinburgh, she spent nearly 15 years working on education at the UK Department for International Development and 5 years at the British Council, and she currently works as an independent evaluation consultant. And our final highlighted distinguished guest today is Simon McGrath. So thank you, Simon, for joining. So Professor McGrath completed his PhD on South African education and training policy at the University of Edinburgh in 1996. He recently joined the University of Glasgow as Professor of Education. Previously, he worked at the University of Nottingham, where he was also the UNESCO Chair in International Education and Development, and was appointed to the Scientific Advisory Group for the UK Department for International Development. So it's great to be able to connect the past, the present, and the future in CEID and see that we've got this existing strength in the field and really look forward to what we're going to do in the future. So that being said, I want to now introduce our keynote, Emeritus Professor Kenneth King. So Professor King has had a very distinguished career covering more than 50 years. His importance for the field of comparative education and development is clear in his past work and his relationships. In discussing today's event with many of our distinguished guests, conversations continue to come back to Ken, who acted as a key mentor, advisor, and source of inspiration for many. Professor King completed his PhD at the University of Edinburgh in 1968 and has spent much of his career connected to the university. He held a personal chair in comparative and international education and served as the director for the Center for African Studies from 1993 to 2005. He was a founding member of the UK Forum for International Education and Training, UCFED. He was a past president of the British Association for International and Comparative Education, BASE, and the founding editor for NORAG News. His wide-ranging research include foci on the history and politics of education, the relationship between local and global goals and knowledge systems, and international development and education in Africa. His publications of nearly 500 includes his most recent edited volume, India's Development Diplomacy and Soft Power in Africa. In short, I cannot think of a better person and keynote to mark this special occasion. So thank you, Ken, for everything you've done for the field and for joining us today. So welcome, Ken. So feel free to unmute yourself, Ken, and we'll go ahead and all right, Ken, it looks like you've got control, but I think you need to unmute yourself and we'll go from there.
Is that okay?
Yep, that sounds good.
I think I have to ask you to, let me just see if the slide, there we are. Well, to everybody who's listening, it's a great honor to launch this new Edinburgh Masters. And congrats on the QS, Richard. That is wonderful news, even though it doesn't break until tomorrow. We've got it ahead of time. And also congrats on the applications to this new degree, Will. Great to have such a positive set of reactions around the world from 40 countries. That's wonderful. My remarks today are going to be principally aimed at the potential students. You already have many of those lined up, rather than at staff or alumni, but there are some staff and alumni on the call. I don't know if there's any as far away as Shanghai, where my first PhD student is located. I put my email here at the bottom in case people want to get in touch after this call and ask me anything about what I say or what I haven't said. And I look forward to meeting quite a few of you this afternoon. My wife, Pravina, and I will both be there at the picnic. So we look forward to seeing you. Now, just a few things here. I'm going to talk about why come here. Also, why this particular interesting combination of two, what you could call really two fields. What about the important issue of what you do afterwards? That's pretty important for most students that I know. And then I'd like to give some advice about what you should try and do while you're here. Don't wait until after you've left. Join things, get some international experience while you're here. And also, I'm going to say some things about the role of serendipity, which played a key role in my career. And I bet if you're honest, it probably plays a key role in many of your own. Okay, so why Edinburgh? It's well known. You're not out in the countryside like Stirling or other universities you can think of. And you've got a very wide range of students. Even when I was here back in the earlier years, I made very strong friendships with people from India, South Africa, USA, Ghana, and even England. There were quite a lot of English people in the university then. And later on from those other areas. We, of course, discussed issues that were on the boil then, like Rhodesia, South Africa, civil rights in the USA. No need to talk about the cultural life here. It's very well known. But important even then to have made contacts with Europe. If you want to know in a longer framework of what I did over my own 20 or 30, 40, 50 years, look at that book that was kindly mentioned by Will. There's a lot of information there about things that you might profit from. What Richard said about the interdisciplinarity of Edinburgh is absolutely critical, and it's nicely captured by CE and ID. It's the, on the one hand, challenge to look at skills and education outside the UK, but also to realize that Edinburgh has some very important and influential centers of expertise, notably African studies, but there's also anthropology. And don't forget, in New College, very strong interest in what they used to call Christianity in the non-Western world. See also the role of Chinese studies and South Asian studies. Don't forget that Edinburgh has the first Confucius Institute in Scotland, right here. So don't wait till later to begin to learn Chinese. I wish I had done Chinese instead of learning ancient Greek and Latin. I would be ahead of the game now. My own experience, you can pick up in that article I referred you to, but I was lucky because I was able to do history here, but history and education because of some absolutely world-class historians of Africa and Pan-Africanism. But that last item is very important. You have the chance here to do what I did, to be not just a member of an education society, but to have membership in development studies, African studies, and also education. Do think about that, because that's what the title of your degree is about, education and international development. What about jobs? Bit too early to think about that, but what you should really focus on is the quality and focus of what your postgraduate degree is here. And just a bit of a suggestion, some of you will be coming from China. We have a very strong Chinese contingent over the last many years in Moray House. Please don't assume that if you're from China, you should do a dissertation on China. One or two of our best students during my time here were people who came from Nigeria and decided, why don't I write about what's happening in Scotland? Why don't I write about what's happening in the European Union? So I had never been in Kenya, but I decided to do a PhD on Kenya. I never visited there until after I'd done my PhD. Here's an important thing for you all. Don't think that publication is something you should do after you've got your master's or your doctorate. One of the best pieces of advice I got when I went to Kenya was I met an older professor. He said, look, if you want to choose where you can go after Nairobi, make sure you write 30 pieces during your time here. That was very helpful. And don't forget, if you get a distinction in your thesis here, there's a very good chance that you might get it published. All right, about jobs. Remember, CEID is about education and development. So you might be able to work in development studies in the EU or in the UK, or in an international NGO like Oxfam, or in the UN. They need some new members in the UN Security Council, you know, so maybe some chances there. Or think about an aid agency like Alison Girdwood, who we have here, or a research foundation. And don't forget, often the first step you can take is to get experience as an intern. So best of luck on your job search. This is one of the key things that I would urge you to consider. And we did that very strongly when I was teaching here in education and in African studies. Do join as a student member professional associations. It's not expensive. For example, BASE. You know what that is? It was mentioned by somebody earlier. Richard mentioned BASE, I think, and so did Will. Or the African Studies Association of the UK, or the Royal African Society, or the Development Studies Association. That would look really, if you're American, we will have some Americans. Do join CIES. I won't translate that for you. You should know that. These are all good for your CV. Think of that. Multiple memberships while in Edinburgh of education and international development. So don't forget, there's a conference in Edinburgh, a face-to-face conference, we hope, for the first time for 2.5 years in September of BASE. So why not do an abstract? And here, don't forget how many things can start here. My first PhD student, I don't know if they're online in this call, was Mark Bray. He was mentioned in the outline of distinguished alumni. He did his first publication here in Edinburgh for a conference that we organized, his first publication. He went to PNG, married a HK girl, became HK professor and president of CIES. If you're interested to see just how many publications he has, do look him up, Mark Bray, Google Scholar. And you can do the same for Simon McGrath, who is on the call. So here's my first bit of advice, or second. Consider doing an abstract for the BASE conference. Oh, you only got 3 days to do it. Deadline is 8th of April. One of the most important things, I think, is the contacts, alumni contacts that we have held on to for all these 30, 40, 50 years since I was here. University faculty that we knew for years afterwards, one or two of them invited us to their parties as students. And so in turn, I invited students to come to our garden down here in East Lothian. And I asked them to dig for their future. So do come. I hope that some of you will come down and see the daffodils that were put in our garden by people like Mark Bray and Caroline Dyer and others. If you join a professional society, make sure you make the most of it. Make your mark. Take a leadership role if you can. Don't just do your own research. Try and get positions where you can influence the work of that society, whichever it is. So I mentioned that I did some of these things, but don't forget that there's no such thing as stopping work, in my view. I mean, I never used the R word, which I won't translate, but I only started working on China thanks to Mark Bray inviting Pravina and me to come to the University of Hong Kong after I'd stopped being paid by the University of Edinburgh. So there is a life after Edinburgh, and there's a life after your MSc or your PhD. So don't consider stopping work after your master's or after your PhD. I've just done a book which was launched last week, and one of my PhD students just launched his book yesterday on making music in Malawi. You know, so How are we doing for time? I've still got some time. One of the last things I'd like to encourage you to think about is something that you can't plan. It's the role of serendipity. And it's also worth remembering, and I can see that there's quite a few Chinese students have joined this call. Don't forget what is often said, that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. That reminds me that there's a well-known Chinese proverb about the key importance of, depending which part of China you come from, lu li or nu li, which means effort. And there's a proverb which says effort compensates for IQ. We might get one of the Chinese students to tell you that at the picnic this afternoon. Don't bet on it, but serendipity might bring you a thesis topic. It might bring you a first job opening. It might even bring you your future partner. So be alert, if you can be, to the chance that luck may play a role. This is not about luck, this next one, but I would suggest that you try and listen to your lectures and your seminars as if you're going to ask the first question, not just take notes. This is particularly what somebody we're going to celebrate later this year, perhaps at the base conference, used to do. Professor Lalaji Bowen, B-O-W-N, a world expert on adult education. And in the many conferences that I attended, and she came to here in Edinburgh, she would always be ready to put her hand up and ask the first question, because she thought about that, the importance of doing that. So in my own case, I found my PhD topic by chance. I hope this isn't undermining the role of critical reflection, Richard. I just found by chance a key 2 volumes in the old Playfair Library, and that became my PhDs. I found an opportunity to work in Ottawa for an aid agency, really by chance. And I must say that I probably met my wife, who's on the call here, by chance. So let me just suggest to you that if you want to look at some things, this PowerPoint will be accessible after we've finished, from Will and from myself and from Richard. These are some things that I will help to tie down some of the points that I've made over this last 15 or 20 minutes. And you will see that one of them, and this is a key point, partnership is very important. Partnership with somebody, in the case of Simon McGrath, who is one of our doctoral students, and partnership lower down with a colleague from India who, so I think it's very important, and I would encourage you therefore to pay a lot of attention to your friends and contacts, because later on you will perhaps still be able to work with them. In the case of myself and my wife, we still have very close connections with several people with whom we studied here in Edinburgh all those years ago. But don't forget, one of the things that is illustrated in my career is what is there in the very words of CEID. I was lucky to be given an appointment both in education and in international development. My lectureship was in African studies and in education. So it's an illustration of the importance of what's in that CEID. My last suggestion to you students is, don't just join professional societies, and don't just make sure you know well those who are working with you as faculty and as students, but make sure you know and consult these journals, all of which, of course, are in the university library, as well as in the Moray House Library, I guess. So don't particularly pay attention to International Journal of Education and Development. That pays a lot of attention to the very core of CEID. Let me draw a halt there, Will and Richard, and the wider audience. I look forward to hearing the next section of the program in which we hear from faculty and later on from students. Thank you again for the invitation to do this keynote.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kenneth, for coming and sharing some of your experience and some of your advice with our current and future students. So excellent to have you here and based in Edinburgh. So you might be seeing many of us, hopefully visiting your garden and your future parties. Okay, so our next step today is our faculty panel. So we have quite a diverse faculty, most of which have actually joined in the last 3 years to the university, which really, again, demonstrates the commitment from Moray House to CEID and internationalization more generally. So we've got 7 faculty members that will join us from the panel: Fatih Aktas, Alejandra Bartlett, Carol Fichet, Lindsay Horner, Jack Lee, Shari Sabeti, and Zichi Zhang. To moderate the panel, we have invited some of our society leaders. So once again, the Student Society is one of the few graduate student-led societies in Moray House and really across the university. So it was established in December 2019, really from the motivation of students wanting to get behind and learn from each other, act together, and kind of advocate for areas in this field. So today we've got, I believe, hopefully 3 members of the society joining to moderate. So that we'll start with Janik Amina moderating the first question. Janik is the current society president. We have Nan Lee joining us. She graduated in 2020, and during her time here, she was the society publicity officer for the very first society, so one of the founding members. And hopefully joining us on her lunch break will be Laura Perez, joining us from Spain. She was the society president last year, and actually the vice president during the very first society as well. So she graduated in 2021. So I'm gonna stop presenting for a bit and invite Janik to come up and get our faculty panel started. So Janik, Nan, and Laura, it's over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Will, for the intro, and it's been really interesting listening to everyone so far. So yeah, I'm going to invite each of the panelists to chat to us briefly about their background and their experience that's got them to this point and what they'll be bringing to the masters. So if I can ask Dr. Fatih Aktas to talk first and share with us some of his expertise.
So just a quick reminder that everybody has just a minute for this. I know you've got lots of experience and expertise.
Thank you, Janik. I'm Fatih Aktas. I'm a teaching fellow at Moray House School of Education and Sport. I received my PhD degree in Comparative and International Education at Lehigh University in the United States. I also received my master's degree in the same program as a Fulbright scholar from Turkey. My main research interest is comparative and international education, creativity and innovation in higher education, and internationalization of higher education. And before joining the school, I was an assistant professor at Yeditepe University in Istanbul, Turkey. Back to you, Janik. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. If we can move on to Dr. Alejandra Bartlett.
Hi, thanks, Janik. So my name is Ali Barletti. I am originally from Brazil. I have been working in international higher education since 2003, but don't count. I was 2 for a very long time. And I have more recently moved towards sociology of education. It's still about higher education with a focus on Latin America development, regional education, and the colonial perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ali. And if we can move on to Dr. Carol Foucher.
Hi, everyone. I'm a French Canadian. I did my PhD a long time ago at the National University of Singapore in medical anthropology. My research focuses mostly on health education and also education and well-being, as well as identity formations among the youth. And I did research mostly in fragile societies in Southeast Asia, then in Central Asia. I worked also in Kazakhstan for quite a few years. And now I'm doing more research in North Africa on the same topics. So really nice to see you all here.
Thank you, Dr. Fauci. Now can we call Dr. Lindsay Horner?
Hi, nice to see you all. I'm Lindsay Horner. I'm a lecturer in education and international development, and I'm very happy to be involved in this new programme. I have researched and published on many topics, including community organising as a type of peace education in Mindanao, teachers as agents of peace building in conflict-affected contexts, the role of religion in development, specifically a post-secular response, and most recently populism and the failure of liberal education in the Philippines. So if I had to sum up these very topics and my interest in a nutshell, I would say my research asks, what is the discursive work being performed here, particularly in relation to social justice and peace building? So by that, I mean, what version of reality or what ideology is being promoted and whose interest does it serve? But importantly, who is not recognised. And this was apparent in my PhD research in the Philippines that questioned the discursive work of liberal peace and asked what local understandings of peace were already present and already in the Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Horner. If we can move to hear from Dr. Jack Lee, please.
Hi, everyone. Great to see so many people today for this launch. My name is Jack. I am a lecturer in education policy and comparative education, fairly new to Moray House, comes from Canada. Prior to my PhD, I worked at the University of British Columbia, running international programs, doing intercultural training. I did my PhD at University of Toronto, focusing on policy making in Southeast Asia. And as I said, a lot of my work is on higher education, internationalization, how regionalization happens at that level. Great to see everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Now we'll move to Dr. Shari Sabeti.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. My name's Shari Sabeti. I'm a reader in arts and humanities education. I'm probably the person on this panel who's been at Moray House the longest, I think. I'm originally from Iran, although I grew up in London. I did all my sort of degrees, my undergraduate, postgraduate degrees, PhD, all in comparative literature, not in comparative education. But I then became an English teacher and then moved into teacher education. And the research that I do is focused around the value of arts and humanities education, but my work draws quite a lot from the theory and methodology of anthropology. So the Anthropology of Education and Learning course is the course that I organise and run as part of the MSc, as part of the MSc Education at the moment. So my research has focused on kind of artists, teachers, creative practitioners and students. And very recently, in the last sort of 4 years, I've been working on projects over in the Pacific, so specifically in the Marshall Islands, where we've been working with artists to explore people's experiences of displacement as a result of the testing of nuclear weapons on those islands. And I'm hoping to do some research in the future in Samoa as well, there to explore Robert Louis Stevenson's legacy, again, through artists and arts education workshops.
Thank you, Dr. Sabeti. And then if we can move on to Dr. Sikiza.
Hello, everybody. I'm Siqi Zhang. I obtained my PhD degree in sociology from University of Edinburgh in 2019, and I obtained my master's degree from London School of Economics and Political Science in sociology as well. Yeah, and I joined our school from 2019. Yeah, and it is my pleasure to work with very excellent colleagues here. And my research is related to sociology of education, gender, cultural capital, and social inequality. I was very inspired by my personal experiences of studying abroad. So I'm also interested in international students' experience in higher education abroad. And these also help me to kind of understand what are the potential difficulties and adaptation difficulties for the international students. Yeah, so that is all about my information. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you all very much for speaking. It's really exciting to hear all of your impressive backgrounds and what you'll bring to the degree. If we can pass on to Dan now for part 2 of the panel.
Okay, so the part 2 is mainly about giving a brief introduction to the new courses in the program. And so welcome Dr. Jack Lee. So you are helping construct the new course, Introduction to Comparative Education. And could you please say more about the course and why it's important in the program?
Okay, thank you. The volume was a bit low. We've decided to split the 2 courses, Comparative Education and International Development, after lots of discussion about 2 very different ways of looking at education, as Kenneth King had alluded to earlier. Comparative Education, I am helping create this course with Alejandra, who's in the room, and we will provide students with a historical background of how the field really started. It dates back to several hundred years ago. We don't have that much time to cover all the history, but certainly after the Second World War, comparative education really grew into an academic discipline coming from practice. So the theories involved, we will not get into the methodologies because we have a separate course on how to compare. But comparative education is constantly faced with the problem of why do we compare? There are many purposes, so we will discuss these purposes. We will also discuss certainly current debates about the field, such as decolonization, the critique that some of these early pieces in comparative education were in fact very much colonial projects at the start. So it gives students a good coverage coming from the origin, the historical aspect, and then covering to current debates on comparative education.
Okay, cool. Thank you for the info. So let's just move on to the Dr. Fatih Akhtas. An Introduction to Education and International Development is also a new course that you are engaged in. So could you please share us more insights into the course and why it's crucial in the program?
Thank you very much. This new course is with Lindsay and me. We are the together organizing this session. It's a new course where participants will have the opportunity to explore the debates around the relationship between education and international development. So it's an opportunity for participants to explore a wide range of theories in development, including human capital theory, modernization theory, capabilities theory, and post-structural theory. And students will have the opportunities to analyze a wide range of cases, including gender equality, sustainable development, peace building, teachers and their relationship with international development. And our goal is to make sure that through exploring a wide range of issues, we would like the participants to be able to think critically about the some challenges and possibilities of education to assist international development in different contexts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's quite informative. And so shall we just move on to the Lindsay honor? You recently launched the new course, Education and Conflict. So could you please just tell us more about the course and also its importance for students?
Yes, I'd love to tell you more about this course because I'm very excited about it. As you can probably tell from my introduction I gave earlier, I am very interested in the role of education in peace building, and this is part and parcel of this unit. So this is a 20 credit optional course, but it's going to be, I think, especially relevant and important for students interested in international development in particular. And that's because in the last couple of decades, we have seen a merging of security discourse and development discourse. We can't really talk about one without inferring the other anymore. So development is impossible without security, and security is not sustainable without development. So we get these two referring to each other, and therefore security, conflict, peace become really important to studies of development. And this has far-reaching implications and effects for how development is seen on the ground, because development suddenly becomes security, and also which contexts receive development aid. And this is no less influential in the education sector. So in this course, the aim is to develop the theoretical resources for students to apply and pursue their own interests and trajectories, because conflict can be very broad. So what we're doing is we're bringing a lens of education, peace building and conflict to their work. So the course is, and this is a word you've heard a lot of already this morning, the course is interdisciplinary. We read literature from IR, international relations, geography, sociology, anthropology. And education doesn't just mean schooling. I should really make that clear. It's very theoretical. And we ask how these disciplinary approaches and the theoretical resource they give us can help us to think about education. But it's more we take these disciplines and then read education into them rather than reading about education on its own. This includes different theories of peace, so liberal peace, everyday peace, also its opposite, theories of conflict, such as a series of violence, such as structural violence. We also look at social justice as recognition, redistribution and representation, and how these relate to case studies to draw out the intersectionality around gender, equity, youth, disability, etc. in conflict-affected contexts. Just want to finish with a characteristic of the course delivery, because to reflect the topic and mirror its ethos, the course is delivered in a workshop dialogic method. So we resist what Freire would call a banking model of education, because an authoritarian teacher delivering sanctioned knowledge, in my opinion, has no place in a course exploring violence, conflict and peace building, because this would be the opposite of cognitive justice. We've had a lot of positive feedback from students who have enjoyed the interactive nature, including simulations and debates, and that we can follow their interests and the flexible nature of the workshops. But there are no lectures, which can initially be a bit of a shock for students. I think that introduces the basics of the course.
Okay, great. Thank you for giving us a picture of how the course is like. Yeah, so it's so exciting to know there's so much going on in our program and also about the new courses launched in our program. So I guess we can just move on to the part 3. Is Laura there? I may just hand over to Laura. Okay, no, so I will do it. Okay,
I think Laura was in the room. Laura, are you in the room?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry. I can go ahead. So thank you, Nan. Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm so happy to see you all again. I'm moving now to part 3 of the official launch, and it's about questions about what makes the program unique. I'm going to start with Dr. Alejandra Barlet, who's a teaching fellow. As dissertation coordinator for the new program, can you say more about the placement-based dissertation and what it adds to the program itself?
Hi, Lara. Yes, of course. So one of the innovations of the MSc CEID is the students will have an option of doing, besides the traditional dissertation, there is the option for students to do what we are calling the placement-based dissertations, or PBD. So the core of the placement-based dissertation is that students will be developing a specific task or a research task with an international development organization as a host. So the international organizations that we have been cooperating, for instance, the Education Partnership in Lagos, Nigeria, the Initiative for Socioeconomic Rights in Kampala, Uganda, or the Global Campaign for Education in the US, and also one organization in São Paulo, Campanha Latino-Americana pelo Direito à Educação. So different organizations will be connecting with the MSc CEID to offer these opportunities for the students. So this is going to be a very exciting innovation. I have a lot to learn about it, but I will be happy to see how this will unfold and bring this innovation as well to Moray House, because as far as we know, we haven't had this experience. So it's going to be a big learning curve for all of us.
Thank you, Aliandra. Yeah, I think that would be amazing. I think it's going to be a great experience for the student and also for the organizations to enable connection between them and try to explore interesting things and significant things that some days we are not exploring together. So I really hope it goes well and you get many connections. And then moving to Dr. Siki-san, teaching fellow. You help coordinate the virtual mentoring program for CEID, a program unique for students in this master's. Can you say more about what the virtual mentoring program is and how it benefits students in the master's in CEID?
Yeah, okay, sure. Thank you, Laura, for your question. I'm the co-coordinator of CEID Virtual Mentoring Program, and this is a mentoring program established from 2020 to 2021 academic year. And the aim for this program is to provide students with an alternative form of support, which is better positioned to provide students-only insight. And in this way, we hope that this will further strengthening the CEID community. And we hope that over the time, mentors and mentees develop mutual trust and respect. So they will maintain long-lasting relationship across different cohorts. Currently, we arrange the mentor training sessions for every mentor at the beginning of the semester. And mentors are expected to provide advice and feedback, share their experiences, acting as sounding board, and if their mentees have any questions, they also share suggestions for maintaining study or life balances, and they are also expected to offer encouragement and support to try new things. And the mentors normally schedule 2 to 3 meetings with the mentees every semester, and these meetings are expected to be done virtually, and it is expected that at least one meeting a semester are done through individual meeting. We also encourage the mentees and mentors to establish a very friendly relationship, encourage them to try to support each other. But of course, the mentors do not help students write assignments or complete tasks or assignments, which is supposed to be done by mentees himself or herself. And during the CEID Town Hall, especially at the beginning of the semester, I presented and CEID Community Town Hall for the mentees and to share with them what they are expected to do and what is the whole process during the whole mentoring program. At the very end of semester 2, both of the mentees and mentors received a feedback form, and so that it will be a good opportunity to give them chance to say what they hope us to improve, or if they enjoy something during the whole process, they can just let us know. And during last academic year, at the very end of semester 2, we also invited 3 alumni from 2019 to 2020 cohort to join the alumni panel to share the experiences of being mentors to CEID Community Town Hall. And we got quite positive feedback from the alumni and current students. Thank you so much. And personally, I feel this is a happy experience which gives us lots of encouragement to further develop this mentoring program and thinking about how we can potentially support the students and encourage them to support each other, especially during pandemic. Yeah, and we will give you more updates on this on the CEID Community Town Hall. And I know some of you here today are the students this year or from previous year. Yeah, so feel free to join this mentoring program if you are interested in that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Siki. And yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it's great, this virtual mentoring program. It will help so much the students from this cohort, because you can learn a lot of things from the past cohort that maybe you wouldn't have known if you wouldn't have had the advice from them. So definitely, I think that's incredible, and it's good that you will include it in the new program. So now, moving to Dr. Carol Faucher, teaching fellow as well. You have been active in webinars as part of the CEID research group. Can you please say more about the recent webinar on education in Afghanistan and how the CEID research group benefits students in this program?
Okay, thank you very much, Lara. First, the research group is a very important component of CEID. You know, all the students and former students, you know that as soon as you embark on a dissertation, you're becoming a researcher. So it's very important to first network with other researchers. This is what the research group is about, to be able to share researchers and what's going on in different parts of the world, to be able to engage at the research level, but also at the level of different works that has been conducted, for example, by international or local NGOs in different parts of the world, because it's very important to understand that practice on the field is very much connected to research, and this is also what CEID is about. So over the past couple of years, we have organized some seminars that were not only very interesting, but also help us to understand the different challenges in different regions. So we had one on Lebanon with different colleagues from Lebanon just after the explosion that happened in the Beirut port. Then we had also more recently one webinar on the situation in education in Afghanistan with experts from Afghanistan and also members of international NGOs based, one of them based in Italy and another one based in Afghanistan. And we also had a series of book launches, and we hope, of course, to continue to these events. And it is very important for the whole research community of CEID to not only to be involved in attending, but also to share their experiences and to come up also with ideas for webinars or maybe even seminars in person, because maybe that will be possible. And also, it's also the research group is also there to share different informations, sometimes more practicals about where you can publish, how you can publish, where you can go for the next conference, and maybe there will be other activities that also you can come up with different ideas of a workshop. Just to mention that the researchers, of course, regroup researchers from the campus, but also researchers from outside the campus, outside Moray, the University of Edinburgh, and also around the world, and it keeps growing. So this is it, and I look forward to see you active in the research group. Thank you, Lara.
Thank you, Carol. That's amazing. It's so good to hear that you will be doing these webinars and you will be more connected with the reality of what is happening in other countries. And I think the students are going to benefit so much having like people from these countries expressing what is happening there, and also will be more connected with what they want to research and everything. So thank you very much, and I hope it goes great. And now the last question will be for Dr. Shari Savetti, Reader in Arts and Humanities Education. Shari, as one of the more senior academics in the CEID faculty, can you please discuss more on the evolution of the program from pathway to distinct masters? What do you see are the main benefits of the new program?
Thank you, Laura. I think a lot of the things that I was going to say actually people have already either implicitly or explicitly sort of said. I joined the university in 2013, and I think it was in around 2015 I became involved with the pathway. I think this program actually started off originally as just one course, which I think was Gary's course. So Gary was with us, called International Perspectives on Education and Training. That course then became the main course in the pathway, which was called Comparative Education and International Development, and my anthropology course joined that. So that was in 2017. And now in 2022, it's evolved into a program of its own, which, as you can see, has happened very quickly, but has happened as a result of incredibly successful student recruitment. So I think in the first year of the pathway, we had 26 students. In the following year, that went up to 65. And in the year after that, we were over 100 students that we'd actually recruited onto the pathway. Now that has gone up and down over the last few years because of COVID and various other things, but that's how quickly we kind of collected students, I suppose. And with that came a burgeoning of staff recruitment. So almost everybody that you see here has been recruited subsequently to that, since 2018. I think what I did want to say was you've already seen the kind of diversity of staff backgrounds, and also our staff, not just from academic backgrounds, but staff who've then gone on to work for international organizations as well. So I think that's one of the great strengths of the program, as is also the diversity of our staff methodologically. So we have anything here ranging from people who work in advanced quantitative methods to people like myself at the very other end of the spectrum who use ethnographic methods and arts-based methods, and almost every variation in between that. You've got a huge diversity in regional expertise and people working in different places in the world. We've already mentioned sub-Saharan Africa, but also there's Central Asia, there's the Asia Pacific region, and also people whose work is focused in global North contexts too. And obviously there's a huge range of expertise across the different education sectors as well, from early years right all the way through to higher education. I think you will have seen today that this is an incredibly inclusive community. So we've got people here from the past, people here from the future. We've got people here who are PhD students, who are master's students. And it really does feel very much like that. Everybody's part of that community. Another thing I just want to point out is the way that this program links across our school. So we have links, as you know, we have different institutes in language education. We have an institute in teaching, education and leadership. We have one in sport, and this program sits within the Institute for Education, Community and Society. But we have people who work in childhood studies, teacher education, sport and development. So there are huge numbers of links across all of these different courses. And many of our courses are open to students from across the school. So you'll meet students from doing different kinds of educational research and different kinds of educational practice. Across the universities, much of this has been mentioned, but we do have quite strong links, obviously, with the School for Social and Political Science, the Centre for African Studies, the Centre for South Asian Studies. There's also a Centre for Contemporary Latin American Studies, which is based in the Literatures, Languages and Cultures Department. We obviously also have links with the MSc International Development. I think Kenneth has made a good job of talking about what a wonderful city Edinburgh is. So I'll leave that there, but it is a great place to live for lots of reasons, for the arts, for the culture, but also for everything that you want from a city, as well as the ability to get out of the city very easily when you want to go to beautiful places in the countryside. So it really is a unique course with unique staff, and we are all really looking forward to welcoming you all here in September.
Thank you. Developed into a master's, and then now it's a unique program. I wish I had like start the master's now instead of before, but I'm glad like you finally like got this, and I wish you all the best to all the professors, and I welcome everyone to like come and do this master's because it's amazing. So thank you very much to all the panelists today. I think we are done for the panelists, no? Now we move to the next section.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thanks so much to Janik, Nan, and Laura for moderating that. And I got to say, you know, what you just heard was really from a wonderful group of colleagues that I couldn't thank more for the journey we've been going on in the last 2 years to go from initial design to really a point where we've got students on this call like Rebecca who will be joining us in the fall. Really exciting for the next phase of the CEID program with all of you. So it's been great. I want to end today with a little update from our in-person celebration. So remember, the online launch was only the first half of our celebration today. We are going to do an in-person celebration, and I'd like to invite Evelyn, who's a student in the CEID event planning team, to give us an update. So Evelyn, welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm Evelyn from the CEID event planning team, and I would like to quickly update on some information on in-person celebration of this online launch. So due to change by rainy weather, we have changed our location to 40 George Square, lower ground 09 room. It is not lower ground 07 room as indicated in the previous email. And the event will start at 3 p.m. and last for about 2 hours. And we have prepared some free pizza, snacks, and drinks. Along with relaxing music, a lot of games will also be going on. So it's a great opportunity to chill and social networking. And thanks to the school's help, everyone comes will basically secure a gift. So please bring your friends and family and let's have fun together. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Evelyn, and the whole event planning team for really putting together our in-person celebration. I'm looking forward to seeing many of you there. If you haven't signed up but want to join us at 3, please do join us at 40 George Square, LG09. And I also want to thank Richard Andrews and the rest of the head of school office for generously supporting us to help provide this food and prizes. So I think that we are running to an end. The last thing I want to do here is just thank everybody. It's been an amazing 2 years in development and creation of this program. It's wonderful to see so many past alumni there, so many people from across the community and beyond, from other academics and peers and colleagues throughout Europe and parts of the world. So thanks to all of our presenters and supporters. Thanks to the CEID event planning team who helps with almost all of the events that we do here, but especially put together the in-person celebration on their own. If you want to follow us in the CEID community, please do so on Twitter at Moray House CEID. You can check out our research group or apply for our new master's program. So really excited to get to meet some of our new students in the fall. Thanks so much for everybody for joining today. It's been a wonderful time to celebrate with all of you, and And I look forward to seeing some of you at 40 George Square in about an hour and a half. So thanks, everyone. Hope you have a great day.
Bye, everyone.